I see now that my mic was muted this whole time. Okay, that's a bit annoying. And here I was going on all these amazing explanations, and you heard nothing. Okay, let's start again. This is Asset Forge. It's a kit bashing software. All right. And again, I apologize that I didn't realize my mic was muted. So what I'm doing here is I am creating the engineering vessel, the mining vessel. I didn't have much time yesterday to do any kind of scripting for a more for the other options that I made available. And rather than fumbling through and trying to figure out exactly how best to do it during the live stream, I decided instead to create the mining vessel. All right. Okay, so the things that I was talking about was there is a trade-off between protection and visibility. All right. And the first viewport that you saw, so this was one of the options, but this was the one I showed you. All right, so this one gives you the most visibility. If you can imagine being seated over here somewhere in the very middle of this, the viewport, you would be able to see quite a lot. Right, your field of view would be big, and while that's advantageous for a fighter, like the military vessel or the pirate vessel, being able to see where your targets are as much as possible without adjusting your position or rotation is highly advantageous. The problem with that, of course, is a viewport's surface is a lot more delicate on the hull than any other surface. All right, so this would be a metallic surface of some kind, or a ceramic surface, or whatever the material might be. It's an armored surface. And impacts from projectiles that strike there are a lot less likely to puncture the hull than anything that strikes the viewport or the windshield, whatever you might want to call it. So for a mining vessel that is constantly being attacked and that doesn't need to be able to see everywhere all the time, and especially for a vehicle like a mining vessel, which is heavier, slower, and less maneuverable, being able to see all over the place doesn't serve too much of a purpose if you're not able to do much about it, right? Since you can't really change your course when someone's coming to attack, you can't change course too quickly, your turnaround time is a lot slower, then what's the point of having such a large viewport? All right, but I'm taking too much time making this explanation. But there's a balance, right? So you need to be able to strike that balance between seeing and not being destroyed by oncoming fire. So there are two extremes, right? So this one is the major extreme on visibility, and this one is the major extreme on defense. So you can see it's a very narrow viewport, and most of the front or the cockpit is protected, whereas the other one isn't. And you want to strike a balance, right? So you want this to be somewhere in between. So if I were to show you comparisons, there's this one, and then there's this one. So you can see the viewport is slightly bigger. And then there's this one. Let me choose maybe that one. Right? And then there's also this one. Now, I think, in my opinion, ignoring aesthetics, right? Because aesthetics are important once functionality is achieved. right? So once it works, that's when you choose which one looks the best. Or you can then focus on adjusting the one that works the best to look better while still serving its purpose. So I think this one serves its purpose the best, right? Because it's got lots of surface area to protect the ship from oncoming fire, while affording a larger viewport for visibility. So you can see what you're doing while not getting blasted into the vacuum of space for that visibility. So let's get rid of these ones and put this one in place. Like that. Right. So one of the things I mentioned while my mic was muted was that Kitbash is a shortcut. It's not the final production software, right? So the one that I will use to make the final ships will be something like Blender, where I can have much more control over the actual geometry and also the shaders and materials and things that I use to get the aesthetic I'm looking for. But for now, while I'm doing the low fidelity prototypes, that's not very important. All I need is a placeholder that communicates to you as the audience and to anybody else who might be testing the prototype that this is the engineering vessel, or that it is the pirate vessel, or the players, or the military vessel. And for that, Kitbash is good enough, as you've seen, right? It's a snap fit system, and you can just push the blocks against each other and off you go. So I'm going to focus on making the general shape, all right, just to communicate how easy Kitbash can be. And then I'm going to move over into Krita, where I'm going to do some sketching, a little like a rough sketch on the kind of look I'm going for the engineering vessel, mining vessel. That way I'm not going to be too fiddly in Asset Forge, and we'll have a more directed approach to the Kitbash. Alright, so let's begin by concluding the body. Something like this. Maybe something like that. No. We want it to be as volumetric as possible because it's a storage vessel. So why don't we do this? And then close it off like this. Okay. And then we can add in canisters and storage. All right. Let's work on the wings first. I think the best thing to do here is to add a thruster at the back, something like that. So what I'm doing now is I'm pressing Q on the keyboard for rotation. Just rotate that. And then if I press F for focus, you'll see that it automatically shifts the view to focus on the piece that I've selected. Right, so I can then scale this down. One of the shortcuts for that is to go here to properties, and I can then adjust the scale here. All right. Now what I want to do is I want to gauge roughly how much of a scale change I want to make. So it's about half, right? So let's say 0.5, something like this. And now I can move it into place, something like that. Okay, let's change the magnitude of snapping so that I can have more fine grain adjustment. We'll move this flush against that surface, something like this, and then down like that. Okay, now I can reposition. Sorry, 25, 23, something like this. And then we change on the global x-axis. What happened? Ah, okay. There we go. That's looking good. Now we'll change the scale to 0.55. Yeah, that's good. And then on the global y-axis, go to 0.25. Something like that. Okay, well now that's good. Okay, so we've got a thrust at the back, and I can now work on the wings. So let's do that. Let's go towards the wings over here. So this is an engineering vessel, like I've mentioned, and an armored vessel as well, right? So we don't want the wings to jut out too far. And we also don't want too much of a body on that ship. So let's do something like this. Okay. We literally only want the player to be in the control system, like the cockpit of the vehicle, and then offer as much storage space as possible. And I know I said I don't want it to be too fiddly, but as you can see, the turnaround time is quite quick, so we can stay here for now. Change back to sketching later. Right, so here's a wind engine middle. Something like this. And then we can just duplicate this. And it's symmetric. So I don't need to do any mirror. That's good. Saves time. Okay. Now I can add on a wingtip of some kind. Maybe one of these. A slanted edge. So again, we don't want this to stick out too much from the body of the ship, right? So let's do that. And then that. Maybe not this one. Let's try that one. Much better. Okay. Now this time I will have to mirror. So we'll duplicate. And then click on mirror. And then rotate that 180 degrees. Just like this. And then adjust its position until it's flush. Perfect. Right. Next step, I can group these. So let's do that. And now I can adjust the position or change the scale. So why don't we do that? Change the scale to be twice as big on this axis and half the size. All right, and then we can ungroup. So we can change this scale to be half the size, right? So let's do that. We'll change it down to something like this. Okay. And then change this one as well. So get a top-down view and then scale it down. Using the grid as a reference. Excellent. Okay. Remember that the mining vessel doesn't have any weapons. It's purely an engineering vessel, right? The only thing that it has is storage and mining equipment. So let's do the mining, well, not the mining equipment first. Let's do the storage before that. Yes, we'll do tanks. Storage tanks. Change the rotation by 90. Adjust location to be in the middle. And then change the scale to be like 2. Oh, oops. 2. Maybe not 2. 1.5 instead. Okay, fine. We'll keep it at 1. And we'll just have multiple instances of this tank. Right, so we'll put one there. And another one there. Like this. And then we'll just duplicate that over here. Okay. Let's just see something here. Ah, okay, good. So it is sticking into the back, so we can just shift slightly until it's not doing that. Just like this. Close, but not quite. What about that? Yes. Okay. And now, one moment. We'll do the same here. Okay, that was good enough. Don't worry about the colors too much. The color scheme for the mining vessel is going to be yellow rather than purple. But for now, we can just leave it as is. Get the shape right, get the parts right, and then focus on aesthetics. Okay, so let's do the next thing. which will be some type of grinder. Some kind of grinder. Oh, hang on. This actually looks better for storage, don't you think? Nah, it's okay. We'll deal with that later. I don't want to get too focused on one thing. Let's just keep moving. Right. Mechanical. Oh no, that's mechanical robots. Hexagon. Maybe this might work. We'll come back to this. This is supposed to be for hexagonal buildings. That's not necessarily the only use for it. We can use it for other things if we are creative enough. Aircraft. Okay, let's add on some kind of landing gear. Or skis. No, not skis. Okay, let's not focus on that now. Let's try and find that. Either we're gonna have to find something we can use as a grinder or build one. And we might have to build one. Unless a large barrel, like a mining laser. That could work. Let's try that. Oh, that's a very big one. We could have used that for the tank, but okay, it's fine. Let's position this in the front. You know, this actually does look almost like a grinder. Let's turn this around. And then change the scale to maybe like 3/4. Okay. So like this. And then change the rotation. I'm in the position to be on the surface of the grid. Positional at 0. It's not quite right. Close enough. Okay. Now we can add some kind of connectors. Let's do that. Go back to vehicles or something. Okay, well, what if we did bumper? I know you might be thinking, what has a bumper got to do with this? But you can just be resourceful with these things. More or less? Yes. So we don't want it to stick out here because again, it's supposed to have a structural integrity, right? It's an engineering vessel. So it shouldn't be dainty like that. It should be beefy like this. And I know that I said it should be you know, it shouldn't be dainty, and then this part is quite dainty. But let's try and find something else. Okay, maybe we'll just use primitives. Why not? So we'll need some type of elbow joint like this. We'll add that up here. No, actually, 180. Or just do 90, like that. Is that central? Almost. Okay. And then we can add a cylinder, a pure cylinder, like this. Change the scale. Something like this. Perhaps not. It might be a bit smaller than the other one now. Okay. Well, what about a third instead of a quarter? Okay, not 0.33. So let's try 0.3 instead. Almost. Okay. Half between that and 25, 0.27. Just do that. Okay, that's close enough. I'm taking too much time here. This is supposed to be rough. It's not supposed to do. Then we can just add a half sphere or dome for this, which was a scale of 64. Oh, that's not the scale. It's 298129. Apologies about that. Okay, close enough. Select that and that and that. Duplicate, move, and mirror. Okay, so that's our grinder, right? So it kind of spins, cuts apart the asteroids, and then it's got these tubes to feed those broken asteroid parts into those tanks. Close enough. The last thing we can do is add some pipes between these tanks so that it's not just like separate tanks. I mean, it could be fed in from the bottom into each tank and have some kind of sorting mechanism. Could have some unseen explanation as to how it works. Okay, I suppose that's good enough. Let's work on the appearance now. Okay, so we'll work on the colors. We want the primary color to be yellow, right? So instead of the primary accent color to be yellow, instead of this purplish color. So let's do that. Some kind of industrial yellowy color. So not too bright, because again, we don't want to draw too much attention to this vessel. We don't want the pirates to know exactly where you are all the time, right? That's why the primary color needs to be dark, like a gray or industrial color, right? So like a obsidian or charcoal, something nice and disguised. All right. Then this color is for the barrel. Can make it maybe a similar color, but not the same. Maybe make it look darker and more damaged because it's a grinder, right? It's supposed to have wear and so let's change that material. All right, we'll go to metal, steel, brushed. No, that's corrugated steel. Scratched. Um, hmm. Shall I take your word for it? Let's see. I'll go to a more neutral color. No. Okay, it's fine. Well, let's just something like this. And then we'll change the metallic to be high metallic, low gloss. Or maybe not so metallic, half metallic, very low gloss. Because again, it's being scratched constantly as part of its job. Whereas this, no. Can be more metallic. And high gloss. Because in this case, being glossy is advantageous, right? If you're reflecting the light from stars and any kind of nebulae, you are more likely to be overlooked than you are if it were matte, right? Because if you're matte, you are occluding everything behind you and you're not reflecting anything. So you're just a silhouette flying through this, through space. As opposed to being reflective, you're more difficult. You're almost like a mirror flying through space. It's much harder to detect than a black square, you know? So maybe nothing is perfect, so we'll do like 0.8 and 0.7, something like that. Okay, we can change the color to be a little bit less black because again, nothing is perfect, right? You can't get pure black. So just move this to the yellow colors. Give it that hint of bronze or gold. Okay, looking much better already. Then this one we can change as well to make it high metallic, medium gloss. And then these accents. Ah, I see, it's that. Okay. Into high metallic, high gloss, and then just do silvery, but like a darker silver, something like this. What is this? Ah, okay. So let's do this. Can be a low gloss and low metallic. Because again, it's a grinder, right? So let's do steel. And that works for this case because it needs to look tough and toothy. So that's okay. As for this, no, we don't need to give it that. We can give it another color. What about... No. What about this instead? Yeah, okay. And then this color we can give to that. Looking good. And now we'll just do this one last color. Should be the windshield. Why isn't it working? Interesting. Okay. We'll do a bluish color, but like a dark blue. Or we can make it reflective. High metallic. Well, no, low metallic, high gloss. Because it's not a metal. It's a glossy plastic. Alright, so it's not reflecting like the metal does. But it reflects in a different way. It's got that gloss, just not the metallic sheen. Okay. Okay, that works. So, oh, if I move towards let's do that, because again an accent color should be scarce, it shouldn't be all over the place. No. Okay, now let's do one last change. This is a bit too long. It doesn't really serve a purpose being that long. We are nearing the end of the hour now, and so I want to say I'm sorry again for realizing so late into the live stream that I was muted. It is only my second live stream, so please bear with me. I will improve as we go. Yeah, I think that's good. Okay, so let's save this into spaceship. Three. Okay, and then we'll export this as a model where y is up using GLTF with the Godot engine preset. Merge the blocks, generate the color map. Scale is 100. Set the scale to 1. And then export towards Lone Star Proxy. We'll call this mining vessel. More descriptive naming. Color maps only support material colors. Okay, well, that's fine. What that means when it said that is that this toothy appearance on the barrel isn't going to be exported because it's an internal material. It's one of these, and it's not going to export that, which is fine. It's okay. Let's just do the new export instead now. So export model, same things, and then replace. Good. See, does not support textures. That's okay. And then save that. Yeah, I think that's good. I like this one. All right. We'll use the remaining time to import that into Godot engine and try and create as much of a scene of this as we can. Okay. So ideally, we want to export these as separate models, right? So you want to make this into a group. Something like that. And then export this as a separate model to this. By doing that, then we can, for example, make this in the Godot engine do rotations about the pivot, which would be here. We'd move the pivot, of course, and then it would be able to do angles for the grinding. And even better than that is if we group this separately to this. So we make these a grouping and then leave that separate. What we can do is we can export that as one thing and export this as another thing. And then in Godot engine, we can, for example, rotate them together or just rotate this by animating it, right? So we can do that. Obviously on its central axis and not as you saw there. And that we can do by changing the pivot. But for now, it's okay. Okay. We'll just, no, actually, it's not okay. Select all, deselect. How do you deselect? Okay. Okay, cool. So let's hide these. Then select all of this. And then export this. Mining vessel. Body. Okay, and then we can go to blocks. Unhide all. Then export this. We'll change this to grinder arm. And export this. Oh, I see. File, export by selection only. And then save this as grinder arm. It's a subtle difference, but it matters because it would have exported the whole thing and saved it as grinder arm, which is not right. And then file, export, selection only. We'll make this just the grinder barrel. Grinder barrel. Set. Okay. Now we can open up Godot engine. Just open up the project. Close down all the unnecessary scenes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. We'll make a new 3D scene. Open up the file system. And then go towards models. Over here. Let's say open file manager. And there it is. Okay. So now we can go towards create a new folder. Call this mining vessel and then add these in like this. And now it should be imported. Excellent. So now what I can do is drag this. Oh, it's tiny, tiny. Okay, let's make it bigger. I see the colors were messed up a little. That's okay, we'll fix that later. Hang on. This is the full one. We don't need the full one. We want... Oh, I get it. I didn't export this by selection only. Okay, let's re-import this. Excellent, that's better. Change that scale back to 100. Brilliant. And then add this on. Change the scale. I should have just made it 100. It's okay, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out as we go. All right. And then the last thing is the barrel. Change that scale to 100. Something like that. Looking good. Just throw. Like that. And like that. Cool. Just move that further out so that it's not gonna smash against the ship when it's rotating. We'll just move that down further, something like this, so it doesn't impede vision. So if I'm operating this vessel, I'd see something like that. Okay. Oh, I get it. Okay, sorry. Yes, delete them. I need to add in mesh instances, not node 3Ds. So if I go, for example, and I type in mesh instance 3D, okay, then for the mesh, I supply that. Hmm. Okay. Okay, well, we've run out of time, and I'm gonna have to leave it there. So we'll just undo that and save it as a new scene. We'll call it mining vessel dot scene. We'll go into scenes, entities, save it there. So thank you all for watching, and then I'll try and complete this at the beginning of our next live stream, and then we'll move on to something else. All right. So